Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
All right. So I'm sorry that you can't see me, everybody. Good afternoon. My name's Summer Wilson. I'm going to be presenting with Becky Lees. We're going to talk about how we're incorporating our AI into our assessment design, but in a way that works kind of alongside learning, but not replacing it altogether. So obviously AI came upon us fairly quickly in higher education, and we know absolutely that students are using it. Not all, and often not correctly, but that day is definitely coming. So this brings some problems. Detecting AI use can be a bit difficult. It can be quite unreliable. Certainly there's some great punctuation, but quite often the content is quite miserable. So we need to be quite pragmatic and accept that it's here to stay in higher education. So with that in mind, we've decided to incorporate AI into our assessment design to make sure ultimately that it's being used appropriately. Okay, you can flip over, Becky. So let me give you some context.
Oh, 1 second. There we go.
Alrighty. So it's an undergraduate level 6 module in accounting. It's made up, the assessment's made up of 50% exam, 20% multiple choice, and then we've got this 30% coursework, which is our experts and novices project. So in line with our values really at Kingston, this assessment design, I think, is quite innovative and also with a bit of a nod to the affective domain. So we wanted students to understand that that kind of initial confusion can really kind of play a role in the learning process. It's not something to be scared of. And that getting through it can really build confidence as well as knowledge. So what is the assessment? The class divides into 3 groups of experts that focus on one area of social and environmental reporting. We're kind of moving away from this traditional approach where students know the end result. So it's not an essay question to be answered as per se. So in this assignment, they're forced to explore the literature. So they're looking at the research landscape and they're mapping out the issues, which we're going to be calling themes. And ultimately what they're going to do is they're going to select a theme that they're going to teach the rest of the class in little groups, and the rest of the class are the novices. So first thing we're doing is we're explaining to them how to do a literature review, the process of it, and searching for literature, looking for papers, really overwhelming for them. So then they use a thematic analysis grid to put their notes from the reading and start to really holistically identify themes that are being investigated in the literature. Then next bit, just before reading week, we will have a session where I'll give them a bit of flash feedback on their thematic analysis grid. And that means that, if they're going in the wrong direction or their literature is really out of date or they're not really fulfilling the area they're looking at, they can start to adjust things over reading week. So then over reading week, they'll hopefully kind of more or less finish their tag, and they're looking to pick one of the themes that interests them that they found. And they're going to use 3 academic papers to discuss this. But they get to the point now where they're not quite sure, they're still a bit woolly on it. So we have what's called an expert masterclass. And during that, we separate the experts into their 3 areas, and we co-create a teaching question. Now, the teaching question is simply a closed question that the answer is this theme that they're trying to teach the rest of the novices. So it really just helps them kind of focus their thoughts, and because they're going to be teaching these novices in a short period of time, 10 minutes for each group, they need to be able to go from the beginning all the way through to the end in this small period of time. So the co-creation of the teaching question is both myself and the rest of the experts listening to have them explain the theme and coming up with a question that they can hang it on. Once they've got this, they're kind of rearing, ready to go at this point, and they're starting to turn towards the teaching element of it. And now they're going to generate this visual storyboard prompt. So really all this is them, doing the beginning, the middle, and the end in with pictures, and they're going to use that to help them teach. Then finally, they get to the expert sessions. We do 3 separate expert sessions. And here they'll deliver they'll teach the novices in little groups this thing they found in the literature. So it works really well. They get to listen, speak to about 6 groups. And in that time, not only are they building their confidence, but the novices are getting stronger as well. They've been talking to other experts. And so they're getting pushback as well. So this is a really, really great time. At the end of that, they write up a summary of the theme that they've taught, and the novices will write up a summary of some of the things that they've learned. And obviously, I will then assess that. So that's the timeline. So initially, when we first did this, we thought of it as fairly AI resistant. We thought that, well, students don't know the end of the result of reviewing the literature, so they're going to be forced to explore it. They have to come up with this teaching question that kind of comes at the end of the review, so they can't just put a question into an AI engine. And we thought, well, this is brilliant. You know, the students are teaching their peers. It promotes this sense of agency and this ownership and this real desire to fully know what they're talking about. And we thought this was brilliant. What we actually got was this confusion they felt with the whole of Google Scholar, and every database was full of papers and them not knowing what to do actually caused this massive panic. And they started to really lack confidence in their ability to do things. When they did the tag, they weren't summarizing the notes from the papers. They were using AI to just rewrite the same comments in a different way across the board. Just panic. And then finally, in the write-up, the students were using AI, but they just didn't know what they were doing with it. And so the write-ups were really poor, and they often kind of went against them, really. So we felt this problem where we had to just move from being AI resilient to kind of AI embracive. So what have we got? We got this innovative assessment design. We designed it to create this space of chaos and confusion in these initial stages where they're searching and reading the literature. But they've got this underestimation of the time involved, which is just causing panic, confusion, overwhelm, anxiety. So this is where AI can help bridge the gap. So we want to use it to redirect the student focus to the key aspect of what they're doing, and thereby reducing stress, panic, and making the assessment more engaging. So how does that fit into our timeline of what we're doing? So same timeline. We've put AI at the bottom there. So at the beginning, in that part where they're doing the literature review, this is the main place where it's really AI supportive, right? So they're going to use AI to just help them crunch this complex topic, to really kind of whittle down the literature and what is going on just a little bit more so that they can adjust their focus. All right, so we start off with a session outlining the ethical way to use AI to condense those topics. Then AI is going to help them in really this iterative refining of the themes so that, again, they can make sense of it a little bit more before they start to do this deep dive. And then, of course, again, just for reading week, the flash feedback that we're giving them is going to then include comments about AI. So this is going to steer their curiosity towards this more manageable area so they can take a bit more of a deep dive. So what we're doing then is we're still supporting this need to work through the confusion, but we're reducing that white noise, that panic to start with, while still retaining this student agency, student autonomy. Okay, so ultimately, I think we need to click on there, Becky. Yep. So then they'll do the comparison. Then they can also use the AI to help them with storyboard creation if they're so inclined. So I'm going to have to rush through this bit because we're a little bit out of time. So just finally, then, this is how we see this assignment as being AI embracive. We're still using learning. We're seeing learning as a social activity being really central to the assignment. We've got this AI supportive approach to crunch the topic, refine the themes, which lessens anxiety and overwhelm and really concentrates their focus. We've then got the co-creation of the teaching question. So they're here moving from this AI support to community support, where the lecturer and the other experts are helping them come up with the teaching question. We then move to the teaching of the chosen theme of the novices, where, this is promoting this knowledge growth, articulating it to their novices and their personal growth in terms of their confidence. And so finally, we've got this tapestry of interlinked outputs. We've got a combination of outputs that are AI embracive, and we've got outputs that are resilient to inappropriate AI use, thus harnessing AI, but firmly rooted in deep learning. And then just to finish off, I have included a student storyboard, so you can just kind of see where they end up. So this student's teaching question was, could a higher degree of supply chain disclosure eliminate modern slavery? So it's a yes or no question. So no, it can't. Let me explain why. And this is what she had came up with. And this was all from her tag. So that will be on the slides if you do want to access them. Last slide is just references. And our contact details at the end. I'm hoping that, I know we're 2 minutes over, and I'm sorry that I couldn't see you all, or you couldn't see me. Probably a good thing, actually. But I hope you enjoyed that. And if you've got any questions, obviously both Becky and I are here and waiting.
That was a great talk, and we would have loved to have seen you as well as Becky Summer. So yeah, well done. A really great talk and lots of great reactions there. We have got 2 minutes, so if you do have a question, if you could quickly raise your hand, we'll allow you to unmute yourself. We'll give you about 10-15 seconds if you do. If not, I can ask a question and then we will go to the break. So if you do have a question, if you'd like to raise your hand. Here we go, I've got one hand up. Anna, just allow me to unmute yourself. Hi, Anna, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hiya, thanks for that talk. That was really interesting. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more about the way the students were using AI in a constructive way versus what they were doing initially when they were panicking. I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that from your slides.
Becky, did you want to take that? Or
yeah, so the inappropriate use was that panic, that initial kind of confusion. And we see it across a number of different modules where students they're not sure how to start, and then they just make a mess of it. So what we're trying to get them to do is to embrace the kind of power of AI to kind of start looking at a topic and start writing prompts around, explain the key themes of a particular area, just to start breaking it down into more manageable chunks that they might then be able to go off on a tangent to explore in a bit more depth and take a bit more ownership of a smaller area rather than this great big kind of forest of new content that they're not quite sure on how to embrace and address because they're still undergraduates, they're not fully formed researchers.
So I would add to that, Becky. I would just quickly add to that, just to say that the kind of the spirit of the assignment is to explore the literature. Where the panic was coming in is rather than exploring the literature and coming from it in that direction to come to a teaching question, they would simply just come up with their own essay question, really, and pop that into a ChatGPT. And so therefore it wasn't indicative of what I was seeing when I was marking their thematic analysis grid. There was just no connection. And the point of having this interlinked tapestry is that I should be able to look across all of the pieces of work and see connections throughout, a theme running throughout. And so it was very clear that whilst they were using ChatGPT, it wasn't helping them at all because they were using it out of panic. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, both of you. Another great talk. So thank you so much.